What if the very thing you believed was making you successful was actually the thing destroying you from the inside out? What if that relentless voice inside your head that says not good enough, not perfect enough, not ready yet, was never pushing you forward but was actually holding you prisoner? What if I told you that perfectionism is not a gift, it is a wound? What if the people who look the most put together, the most polished, the most perfect, are secretly the most terrified people in the room? What if letting go of perfect was the most powerful, the most courageous, and the most life-changing decision you could ever make? Because here's the brutal truth that nobody wants to hear. Perfectionism is not about being your best. Perfectionism is about one thing and one thing only: fear. Fear of being seen, fear of being judged, fear of not being enough. And the longer you run from that truth, the longer you stay trapped. So stay with me, because what I am about to share with you today will not just challenge the way you think, it will challenge the way you live. And you will never look at perfectionism the same way again. What if the thing you have been calling your greatest strength is actually your deepest wound? What if perfectionism, that thing you wear proudly, that thing you list in job interviews, that thing you whisper to yourself as a badge of honor, is not your superpower at all, but the very thing standing between you and the life you were meant to live? I want to start there. Right in that uncomfortable, raw, honest place, because this conversation is not going to be easy, and if it makes you squirm a little bit, good, that discomfort is important. That discomfort is data. Let me tell you something that took years of research, years of sitting across from real human beings in honest conversation, and years of my own personal struggle to truly understand perfectionism is not the same thing as excellence. I know that stings, because we have been told by our schools, by our cultures, by our families, by every motivational poster on every wall in every corporate office in the world, that if you just try hard enough, if you just polish it one more time, if you just make it perfect, then you will be successful, you will be loved, you will be safe. But that is a lie, a comfortable, socially acceptable, deeply dangerous lie. And today I want to tell you the brutal truth. Perfectionism is fear. That is it. Strip away all the language, all the justifications, all the productivity frameworks and the color-coded planners and the endless to-do lists. And what you find at the very center of perfectionism is a terrified human being who believes on the deepest level that they are not enough, not smart enough, not talented enough, not thin enough, not successful enough, not lovable enough, just not enough. And so perfectionism becomes the strategy. If I can just make this perfect, if I can just control how I am perceived, if I can just make sure that nobody ever sees my mess, my mistakes, my flaws, then I will be safe from judgment. Then I will be safe from shame. Then I will be safe from the devastating experience of being truly seen and found wanting. That is the deal perfectionism promises. And it is a deal that never, ever delivers. Here is what the research shows. And I have spent years collecting this data, sitting with thousands of people, asking them about their deepest fears and their greatest joys. Perfectionism is correlated not with success, not with achievement, not with high performance, but with depression, with anxiety, with addiction, with missed opportunities, with relationships that never go deep enough because the walls never come down. Perfectionists are not the highest performers. They are often the most stuck people in the room, because perfectionism does not drive you forward. Perfectionism paralyzes you. Think about it. How many times have you not started something because you were afraid it would not be good enough? How many projects sit unfinished on your hard drive? How many ideas never left your journal? How many conversations never happened because you could not find the perfect words? How many times have you waited for the right time, the right preparation, the right circumstances, and the moment passed you by? That is not ambition. That is not standards. That is fear wearing a very expensive, very convincing costume. And the cruelest part of perfectionism, the part that makes it so insidious, so hard to recognize and release, is that it masquerades as self-improvement. It sounds like the voice of someone who cares deeply about quality. But if you listen closely, really closely, you will hear what it is actually saying. It is not saying, I want to do this well because I love this work. It is saying, if I make a mistake, I am a mistake. It is saying, my worth is conditional on my performance. It is saying, I will be enough, but only if, only when, only after. And that only if, that is where life stops happening. That is where joy goes to die. That is where connection becomes impossible, because you cannot truly connect with another human being when you are wearing armor. You cannot be loved for who you are when you only ever show people who you think they want you to be. Now, I want to talk about something that I think is at the heart of all of this, and it is a word that makes most people deeply uncomfortable: shame. Perfectionism and shame are not just related, they are inseparable. Shame is the belief that there is something fundamentally wrong with you, not that you did something wrong, but that you are wrong. You are broken. You are not worthy of love and belonging. And perfectionism is the response to that shame. It says, if I can just be perfect, I will never have to feel this. But here's the thing about armor. Armor does not just keep the bad stuff out. Armor keeps everything out. When you are armored up, when you are performing and polishing and controlling, you are also keeping out connection. You are keeping out joy. You are keeping out the kind of deep, messy, imperfect, gloriously human experiences that make life worth living. You cannot selectively numb. You cannot say, I will shut down vulnerability but keep the good stuff. When you armor up against pain, you armor up against joy. And that is the cost of perfectionism that nobody talks about. Not just the missed opportunities, not just the anxiety and the burnout, but the disconnection, the loneliness of always performing, the exhaustion of never being able to just be. So what is the answer? What do you do if you recognize yourself in these words? What do you do when you look in the mirror and realize that the thing you have been calling strength has actually been your cage? The answer is not what you expect. The answer is not to try harder. The answer is not another system, another strategy, another 10-step plan to fix yourself. The answer is vulnerability. I know. That word makes people want to get up and leave the room. Because we have been taught, especially those of us who have been hurt, who have been let down, who have learned the hard way that the world is not always safe, that vulnerability is weakness, that showing your real self is dangerous, that if people see your imperfections, they will use them against you. But here's what 12 years of research has taught me. Vulnerability is not weakness. Vulnerability is the most accurate measure of courage. It takes courage to create something and put it into the world, knowing it might be criticized. It takes courage to love someone deeply, knowing they might leave. It takes courage to raise your hand in a room full of people and say, I don't know. It takes courage to say, I need help. It takes courage to try genuinely, wholeheartedly try, knowing that you might fail. And that last one, the willingness to fail, is the thing that perfectionism absolutely cannot tolerate, because perfectionism's greatest fear is failure. And so it does everything in its power to prevent you from ever being in a position where failure is possible, which means it prevents you from ever being in a position where success is possible, where growth is possible, where life is possible. Because here is the truth about every great human achievement, every breakthrough, every work of art, every scientific discovery, every business that changed the world, every single one of them was built on a foundation of failure, of imperfect attempts, of messy, uncomfortable, sometimes humiliating trials and errors. The people who changed the world are not the people who got it right the first time. They are the people who were willing to get it wrong and try again and again and again. Perfectionism would have stopped them all. Now I want to offer you something, not a fix, because you are not broken. Not a solution, because this is not a problem to be solved with a clever strategy. I want to offer you a practice. And the practice is this: show up, that is it. Show up as you are, not as you wish you were. Not as you think you should be, not as the perfected, polished, curated version of yourself that you work so hard to maintain, just you. Imperfect, uncertain, still figuring it out, beautifully, gloriously human you. Show up to the conversation you have been avoiding. Show up to the project you have been too afraid to start. Show up to the relationship where you have been performing instead of connecting. Show up to your own life, not the life you will live once everything is finally perfect, but this life, right now, with all of its mess and uncertainty and imperfection. Because here's the thing, perfection is not the destination. Perfection is a mirage. The closer you get to it, the further away it appears. You will never arrive. The goal will always move. The standard will always shift. There will always be one more thing to fix, one more flaw to hide, one more reason to wait. But wholehearted living, the kind of living that the most joyful, most connected, most deeply fulfilled people practice, that is not about being perfect. It is about being present. It is about being brave enough to say, I am enough right now as I am, and then showing up and living accordingly. Not someday, not when everything is in order, not when you finally lose the weight, get the promotion, finish the degree, achieve the goal, earn the approval. Now you are enough right now. With your failures and your fears and your unfinished projects and your complicated relationships and your doubts and your imperfect past, you are enough. And the moment you truly believe that, not intellectually, not as a nice concept, but in your bones, is the moment perfectionism loses its grip on you. Because perfectionism only has power in the space between who you are and who you think you need to be. Close that space. Not by becoming perfect, but by recognizing that the distance was never real. You were never broken. You were never unworthy. You were never not enough. You were just scared. And that is human, and that is okay, but now you know the truth. And the truth, as uncomfortable as it is, as much as it disrupts the story you have been telling yourself, the truth is where freedom begins. So here is my invitation to you. Not today, not this week, not as a grand gesture, but right now, in this moment, let one thing be imperfect. Let one thing be unfinished, unpolished, imperfect, and release it anyway. Share it anyway, begin it anyway, say it anyway, try anyway, because the world does not need your perfect. The world needs your real. It needs your authentic, courageous, imperfect, fully alive, wholeheartedly showing up self. And that self has always, always been enough. What we have explored today is not comfortable. It was never meant to be. The brutal truth about perfectionism is that it is not a gift. It is a defense mechanism born from shame, sustained by fear, and maintained at the cost of everything that makes life truly worth living. It costs us our creativity, our connection, our courage, and our joy. But the moment we choose vulnerability over armor, authenticity over approval, and wholehearted presence over the impossible pursuit of perfect, that is the moment everything changes. That is the moment we finally truly come alive. Perfectionism will whisper that you are not ready for that moment, that you need more time, more preparation, more polish. Do not listen. You are ready. You have always been ready. Show up. Be seen. Be real. Be enough, because you already are.